Okay, it's 3 o'clock, so we will open up the finance meeting with the call to order.
I'll go ahead and perform the roll call, Chair Kleinfeld.
Yes, call to order, roll call. It's not on there, but that's what I meant.
Yes. Okay. Chair Bob Smith.
Present remotely from Clinton Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Hall.
Present remotely, Roseville, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Bell.
Present from East Point, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kraft.
Present and attending virtually from Chesterfield Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Leonetti.
Present remotely from Harrison Township, Michigan.
Commissioner Carabelli.
Present, Shelby Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Drolet.
Remotely present, Macomb Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Duje.
Present, Warren County, Michigan.
Commissioner Romano.
Present remotely, Sterling Heights, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Myjack.
Present, Sterling Heights, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Sauger. Commissioner Sauger. Sometimes it takes a minute to unmute, so we'll go to Commissioner Brown.
Commissioner Brown, present remotely, Washington Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Lucido. And then Commissioner Sauger, are you available?
Yeah, Commissioner Sauger, Center Line, Michigan, County of Macomb.
Thank you, and that completes the roll, Chair Kleinfeld.
Okay, thank you. And if I could have everybody mute that isn't supposed to be speaking at this time. I know on the video that they keep overriding the people that are speaking. And with that, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So with that, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Commissioner Romano adopts the agenda.
Moved by Romano. I think Carabelli already supported it. Thank you. There's a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes dated October 15th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Gillette moves. Gillette supports.
Moved by Haas, supported by Gillette. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? If you're on the phone, please hit *6 to unmute. If you're on the computer, type in your indication in chat that you would like to speak. Does anyone wish to be heard? Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing of the public. Department recommendations. Macomb County designated assessor. First, this is going to be a receive and file. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Carabelli.
Support.
Okay, so who wants to open up and speak to this? Do we have anybody from assessing?
I can.
There you are. Hi, Kristen. How you doing?
I'm good. How's everybody doing?
Good.
So this is a discussion about the county designated assessor. This was passed by Governor Snyder on the way out back in 2018. And basically the purpose of having a county designated assessor is if a local unit in our county would have issues passing AMAR, which is an audit of minimum assessing, oh God, I forget what the R is. Anyway, it's a review of their procedures. So it checks, you know, do they follow the law when they have their board of review sessions? Do they post public meetings, et cetera, et cetera. And so if a local unit fails their AMAR reviews and they're determined to be non-compliant, the local unit has several paths to correct their deficiencies. One is to get their current assessor to bring their unit into compliance. The second option is to employ somebody entirely different to be their local assessor. And the third option is to hire the county designated assessor. And so this is why we're here today, is to approve one for Macomb County. The process is a little lengthy. We have to approve it at this end, and then we will bring it to the local units for their approval. And if we get the majority of the local units to approve the contract and the designated assessor candidate, then we will get their signatures. It'll come back to you for final approval, and then we submit it to the State Tax Commission for their approval. All of this has to happen by December 31st. And so that's why we're here today.
Okay, so the particular agenda item has William Griffin on. I'm assuming this would be the designated, and this is a receive and file. Would you like to give him an opportunity to introduce himself and say any words if you'd like to?
I believe Bill is on the call, so Bill, you will have to unmute yourself and speak. There you are.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm a 20-year transplant from the West Side, and I've been working here for the last 20 years. Our company is actually utilized by, I believe, 12 communities in Macomb County, and we enjoy working with them. This is our home, and when this law passed, we felt like we're in the perfect situation to help make sure that everybody's compliant in the county and keep the state away from Macomb County so we can do our job to do it well. I don't expect a lot of problems in Macomb County, but we do have the staff available, or if we ever did have a problem, we could address it and correct it. We got started in this business by correcting communities that got into trouble. They asked us to do that, and we've been doing it for 10, 11 years now. It's been a great experience here in Macomb County. I know a lot of the commissions, I hear where they're coming from. We do a lot of their communities, and glad to be helpful if we can.
Okay, thank you. For the commissioners that are lined up to speak, the contract is the next agenda item. So if you have any questions for Mr. Griffin, that would be this agenda item. I see Commissioner Romano.
Thanks, Chair. I think that'll probably cover the second one. 2 questions. Who pays him? And if that comes from Macomb County, how much does he get paid? And that's the only questions I have. Thank you.
The unfortunate part of the law and the contract with the states ask us to put together is we don't get paid unless there's a problem. And if there's a problem, it would be paid by the local community. We're not asking for any upfront fees. We've got the staff to be prepared to serve if we need to. So there's no fees with regards to Macomb County. If someone were to get into trouble locally and we stepped in to help, the fees would be paid by the local.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Carabelli?
I tried to withdraw that, but it was the same type of question, and all set. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So this is a receive and file on William Griffin. There's a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Okay, so with regard to the agreement, now, Kristen, my understanding was we were doing a receive and file today because it still has to go through the regular process with the county executive and everything. Were you under a different impression, or you're under?
No, yeah, I'm under the same impression. This was, the state took a long time to get a template together because, you know, I would rather have something that I know is going to be approved versus going through all this trouble and sending something to the state for them to say, oh, well, you forgot this and this. So the state finally at the end of August put something together, and then we've had the one that's in your packet right now. It's pretty close to being done. There's just some addenda items that would need to be added, and then of course the signature lines, because we're still not sure how to get signatures in a virtual world. There's all of you have to have signatures, so I know we can do that part, but it's getting the local unit signatures all on one document. Do we do each page separately? There's still a couple of those things, those issues that we're trying to hammer out, and then putting everything all together to give to the local units. So we're hoping that will be done in time for the next full board meeting. Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so first I need a motion to receive and file. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Romano makes the motion.
Moved by Carabelli, supported by Romano. And Commissioner Carabelli, do you have a question on this?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So I don't see any speakers at this time.
Okay.
So please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You guys have a good day. Okay, so next we have, can we do all of these together, the C on down, or do they have to be done separately?
You can do those together.
Okay, so I need a motion for...
Motion to approve B through G.
Support.
We'll approve C through G.
C through G, thank you.
Okay, there is motion, and who supported? Okay, Commissioner Haas supports. All right, who's speaking on this? I don't have that.
Hello, this is John from Risk Management.
Hi, John.
I hope everyone is doing well. I haven't seen folks for a while. The first item was the stop loss and administrative fees for our Blue Cross and Blue Shield and BCN products that are self-insured. So they require stop loss and administrative fees. The stop loss went up about 6%, and the administrative renewal was reduced by 3% for these items. If you want me to continue down the list, I can.
Yeah, I was going to say we don't have any speakers right now, and since we did the motion for all of them, if you just want to go ahead and go through them, and if I see speakers, I'll stop you.
Okay. The next one was the HAP HMO for our actives and retirees. The illustrative rates fell within the statutory Michigan caps, hard caps, and that was based on our yearly snapshot of the claims that we received. So there will be no premium assessed to the employees, and the retiree rates are what they are.
Okay, so I do have one commissioner that has a question. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. 6% increase on the stop loss. seems kind of a large increase. What accounts for that?
They review our high deductible claims that might exceed our $350,000 threshold. And in the documents that we had, it looked like there may have been one or two claims that may breach the 350 stop loss level, and as such, they adjust that stop loss.
So that's just a reflection of our claims experience.
That's correct.
What has been the trend in the recent years, the last 3 years? Is it have we seen a steady increase, or have it been,
It's, as far as stop loss, it seems like our claims have been mostly very few claims over the 350. Therefore, there shouldn't be too much of an impact on the rates. So I see a trend of not too many claims going over the 350, and that's what's predicted for going forward, but we'll just have to see because we have the dynamics of the pandemic.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Go ahead, John.
Okay, I'm going on to the next one, which is the HAP stop loss and administrative fees. These are a requirement because, once again, our HAP product, the HMO, is self-insured. So we saw on that the administrative expense was lowered more than 10%, and the stop loss remained the same. It didn't go up at all. It was same as this current year for that product.
Okay, I don't see anybody that has anything.
Okay, the next one is our Medicare Advantage program, which is for the Medicare eligible segment of our retiree population. And in that particular renewal, we have received a overall reduction, as you see, in the costs. This is a premium-based cost, so we know exactly what we're going to pay for each enrollee for the next 2 years. It's a 2-year guarantee on this, which is very good for the county. The prices won't go up for 2 years, and they are also lower than the current year. So it was an excellent renewal for our Medicare piece.
Okay, I still don't see any speakers, so go ahead.
Okay, and the final item was the BCN and the Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO for the actives and retirees. And once again, through the illustrative rates based on the yearly snapshot, the illustrative rates were established, and they fall under the statutory hard caps that the state has provided us, so no premium for our employees.
Okay, so I still don't see any other speakers. So with that, we do have a motion and support. Please vote. Mike? Mike? Patty or Crystal, I don't know what's going on.
Did the vote prompt?
Yes, and
Okay.
I don't know where Mike is.
Okay. Is anyone else logged in? I'm not logged into that view to read the vote count off.
Commissioner Kleinfeld, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. For some reason, my screen, although unmuted, would not let me speak. That motion passed 12-0.
Thank you. Okay, so next we have the budget reviews. Thank you, John. Okay, so we have Public Works is up first. Do we have Commissioner Miller here or anybody from Public Works?
I'm here, Chairman. Can you hear me? Candace?
Yes. Let me get a motion to receive and file, and then I'll let you speak to it. Is there a motion?
So moved, Carabelli.
Support Hall.
Support Romano.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Candace.
Thanks, Chairman, and to the commissioners. Before we lay out, I'm going to have Brian Baker lay out our 21 budget here, but I think it's important that we just for a quick second think about how we did last year with money that was authorized. So very quickly, some of our accomplishments. We completed actually over 76 drain improvement projects, at least one, and many more in every municipality throughout the county. We received a $12.5 million settlement regarding the sinkhole, which was the largest settlement in county history. According to John Shepka, he'll vote for it. We have begun a $30 million project of lining our interceptor on 15 miles essentially from Hayes Road up to the ITC corridor. We have done all kinds of major infrastructure rehabilitation projects. We did about $4 million of grout in our interceptor. We are doing $2 million in drop shafts. We're doing the largest preventative maintenance inspection ever in the county history, about $2 million. We did almost $2 million in a grant for the Sterling Relief for green infrastructure. We took $1 million from the CARES Act money, and we're doing this COVID early warning sampling. We have now completed the largest cleanup, environmental cleanup in Macomb County history, over $1 million at the BP gas station at 696 and Mound. On and on and on. You know, we're very, very involved with our stormwater plan reviews. We like to think we're a critical component of economic prosperity here. We continue to come in under budget. Brian Baker took the lead on helping us to refinance some bond issues. Just this year, we've saved $4.5 million. That's on the total now of about $12.5 million since 2017. We negotiated with the GLWA for some savings. And actually, we got about $8 million annual savings through them. And we've, as you know, have financed about $100 million to OMED repairs and have not necessitated any rate increase. And the last thing I would point out as well is that our sewer charges in the mid have only risen about 2 or 3% for the last couple of years. And the 6 years, with the previous administration, they were always double digit. So we feel really good about how all of that is going. So we continue to, as I say, really try to save money and reduction with our FTEs, et cetera, meeting the goals and objectives that the board has set for us. And with that, I would just turn it over to Brian Baker to go over very briefly our 2021 budget.
Yeah, thanks, Candace. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Our budget, we did save $146,000, which was slightly above the county's goal. There's a reduction of 2.3 vacant full-time positions, and we've also slightly reduced the drain match program by about $25,000. The department budget increases about the same as last year overall. The general fund portion, which is 60%, rose only 2.1%, and that was due to the $146,000 of savings. But the reason it went up is there's these internal service charges that finance controls, and that those rose, which is the reason our general fund budget went up. But all of our non-personnel costs declined, and you'll see the remaining 40% of our budget is the wastewater and pump station operations, and those fully cover their own costs, and those rose a little bit slightly as well. So you'll notice our revenues in total increased slightly, and and that's due to the water and sewer and the pump station cross charges. Our general fund revenues are down a little bit, and that's due to the decline in soil erosion permits and inspections. But as a result, we've also held a vacant soil erosion inspector position vacant for the last 2 years in order, we saw that trend coming. So in total, we've achieved the savings, and the budget is only increasing slightly. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any speakers. Do we have any questions, anybody? All right, we have a motion and support. Please vote.
That passes 12-0.
Thank you. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have the county exec budget. I think this is Executive Delden speaking. Is that who's speaking to this?
Yes, that's correct. I did see him on earlier.
All right, is there anybody else?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, let me get a motion to receive and file then real quick. Is there a motion?
Motion to receive and file, Tuesday.
Support Romano.
Go ahead, Executive Delden.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. And again, it's been a while since we've had the opportunity to connect. I just want to preface the budget discussion by, on behalf of the County Executive, thanking the Board of Commissioners for their tremendous support over the last 7-8 months regarding this pandemic. As you know, you're hearing and seeing everywhere there is an uptick, and it has impacted the county. And I know that Chief of Staff Patty Dibb has been on all of our staff, all of our department leader and elected official meetings over the months, and I'm sure she has shared with you the uptick, and it almost kind of feels like it's March and April again. But without the support of the Board of Commissioners, we would not have been able to address the situation for county staff and residents up until this point without your support. So I did want to pass it along on behalf of County Executive Mark Hackle. Basically, the budget that you have in front of you for the County Executive, we have probably the biggest part of it is we have unfunded one of the Deputy County Executive positions for 2020. As most of you may know, that we have met with all elected officials and department heads at the beginning of the budget preparation season, and we asked them if they could give consideration. We sort of gave them a challenge of a percentage of their budget that we were looking to reduce so that we could present to you a balanced budget. Even before the pandemic, we had been talking in the executive's office along with finance about about there was going to be a correction in the economy at some point in time. We had no idea it was going to be the pandemic that corrected the economy, or at least it made it take a downturn. But we have been preparing for that, and I know that Steve Smigiel, our Director of Finance, has spoken to the board when he presented the initial budget on how many fewer positions are built into this budget as opposed to last year. So again, specifically to the county executive's budget, it is a reduction from last year, and it is we have defunded one of the deputy county executive positions. So with that, I guess the budget is pretty self-explanatory. I'm willing to take any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Deputy Executive Delden. I just want to touch on something that you mentioned in the uptick of cases that are coming. And I really just wanted to give a shout out to the executive's office and all of our staff in the county, all of our employees, because I know you guys are putting in the hours, the overtime, all the extra work, and it's tough. I've been there for the last 8 months on kind of the quote unquote front lines with unemployment. And I know our staff has been on the front lines with everything that we've been dealing with COVID cases, answering the emails and the phone calls. And, I think our setup is fantastic, and I think the work being done is fantastic. And I really just wanted to give a shout out to our employees for all the extra work they're doing, and the executive's office, and on behalf of my colleagues, just a thank you for everything that you're doing. I consider all of you to be front lines, whether you're out on the streets at the health department or at home in your office answering the phone calls. So those are my comments today. So thank you, Deputy Executive Deldon, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you. I had another speaker, and I think they withdrew. So I'm just going to wait a second to see. Okay, so I guess we don't have another speaker. So there's a motion in support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe, are you doing the Parks and Recs budget?
Commissioner Kleinfeld, Steve Smeagol is going to kick that one off, and I'll stay on in case there are any questions that maybe I can assist in answering.
Okay. So can I get a motion to receive and file?
Move Carabelli.
Thank you. Is there
Romano supports.
Support by Romano. Okay. Director Smeagol?
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Very well, yes.
Thank you very much. So the Parks budget is on page E3. As you can imagine, in 2020, not a whole lot going on at the park. There were no concerts or anything like that as a result of the pandemic. The budget for 2021 is relatively static. It's gone up about $12,000. That's primarily due to increases in internal service charges, which is the indirect cost plan. And what was happening there is there were some repairs that were done at that facility in 2018, and those costs were charged to the general fund, the facilities department in particular. And the charges through the indirect cost allocation plan are 2 years behind. So the most recent plan we have is in 2018. So those charges will most likely hit in 2020, actually, as opposed to 2021. But we budgeted them in 2021. Other than that, we reduced utilities a little bit based on experience. Depreciation expense has gone up a little bit. That's in the supplies and services line item. The revenue is primarily the hillside contract for parking and the hall rental and some grounds rental. We are in the process of negotiating new agreements with Hillside. They have an exclusive right to renew the parking agreement. That expires at the end of this year. We're in discussions with them, and the rental agreement for the Independence Hall expires at the end of this year as well. And we're currently in negotiations with Hillside on that particular contract as well. So we're looking to possibly increase the amounts that we're receiving from Hillside. So with that, we're still leaving the general fund contribution at $86,000. That's what it's been for the last couple of years. So any operational questions I can try to answer, and as you know, Mr. Deldon stayed on that he can answer as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Steve, where does the Macomb Orchard Trail budget fit into is that rolled into the Parks and Rec budget? Or is that
no, it's not actually, Commissioner. There's some money set aside in the roads budget for non-motorized trails, and then there's a capital projects fund where the membership contributions from the 5 local units go, and that's where we pay for the maintenance on the trail.
Okay. I don't remember seeing that. Have we had the roads budget in there? Did we look at the roads budget already? I think we did, didn't we?
No, that's later today. That's later on this agenda.
Okay. All right. Who's the current ownership at Hillside presently? Who are the actual principals of Hillside? Has that changed? I know it's a private entity, so that
I think that's really through 313 Presents is who we're dealing with now. I don't know if they've bought out Hillside or so on. I don't know. Mark, do you know?
Since we reopened the park and we settled the lawsuit, it was Hillside Luna, and I know that we are still dealing with Mr. Chelani, who is the principal of that operation. Just to refresh some of the maybe some of the commissioners that may not know, in 1999, the Board of Commissioners had entered into a 20-year agreement with Hillside Productions, or whatever they were called back then. It was a 20-year agreement. The rental cost was static. There was a formula for parking. And at the end of that 20-year agreement, which is at the end of this year, this calendar year, they can renew for another 10-year period without negotiation. Of course, we are attempting to move some of those numbers, those rental costs, upward, just so that we do not have to subsidize from the general fund that operation over there. But that's yet to be seen. We are in friendly negotiations right now, but again, there are 2 10-year extensions on top of that 20-year initial lease agreement that gives them the right to stay there without negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dell. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Mine is regarding the parking. It's always bothered me that it's sort of an honor system, because they're collecting cash, and then they tell us how much they collected and what percentage we get. And I don't know if there's any way for us to be able to have cars counted, but it's always just sort of bothered me that we had it set up that way.
Yeah, as far as I know, the parking fee is included in the cost of the tickets to the particular concerts. And what my office does is, after each concert season, we get information, or, pre-pandemic, we would go out to the facility and meet with the folks from Hillside or 313, and we get reports from Live Nation on, by concert, how many tickets were sold by concert, and then I think it's a $5 fee for the parking, so we can do the math to determine if the parking revenue exceeds $500,000. So we get a minimum of $500,000 or $125,000 for parking, which is 25% of the $500,000. Now, I suppose if they're somehow collecting additional cash from cars coming in, I guess that's possible.
I must be wrong, but I thought we talked about this a couple of years ago, and it was sort of an honor system with them, and I thought that was specifically what was said, but I must be wrong.
Steve, if Corporation Counsel John Shapka is in this meeting right now, perhaps he could speak to it, because he's the one taking the lead on the renegotiation, or at least reviewing the lease as it's about to expire. Mr. Shapka?
Yes, Mark, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. As Mark said, the initial 20-year lease expires at the end of this calendar year. The initial lease was amended twice almost immediately after it was signed. One of those amendments provides for the 2 10-year extensions. Those extensions can be exercised unilaterally without any negotiation. Regardless, we're trying to negotiate. There's a little leverage that we have because the banquet hall lease is also up this year. It ends at the end of this year, and that is not a unilateral extension. That's an extension agreed upon by both sides. So, because we have to agree to the extension of that lease, that gives us some leverage to negotiate in the amphitheater lease. The current amphitheater lease provides for $125,000 absolute minimum parking fee paid to the county every year, including this year, during which there were no events. The proposed lease that I've drafted and submitted, and I haven't heard back from Hillside yet, does away with formulas. It does away with the honor system. It does away with a percentage of the ticket cost. It imposes a straight up flat rate per year what they will pay us. It's about double what they pay us now, which is a little bit pushy, I will admit, but it actually covers all of our utility expenses. We've been paying all the utilities out of pocket here, and I simply ran the numbers. Steve was kind enough to provide me the numbers and incorporated that into the lump sum payment. As I said, I haven't heard back from them yet. We do have this little bit of leverage. If they tell us they don't want to negotiate, we can look at them and say, well, you're not going to get the banquet hall, are you? That's where we get the bargaining power from.
I really appreciate it because it just makes you wonder what happened in 1999 that we would negotiate our rights to have any say-so in those 10-year extensions in the future. Who was negotiating against our own benefit there? And I think that's unfortunate. So thank you. I don't see any other speakers. So we have a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, John. And I think, oh, you're next. You're not going anywhere. Corp Counsel. All right. Let me get a motion to receive and file.
Motion by Haas.
Motion to file, Duje.
Okay. Moved by Haas, supported by Duje. Okay. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I hope everyone can hear me. This is our budget presentation for the calendar year 2021. I can talk about what we did in the past year, 2020, the year that did not actually exist. As in years past, we continue to do all trial court litigation in-house, absent those, the exception of those cases that pose a conflict of interest, which are very few. We do all of our own appellate work. We do contract drafting, reviews, we do negotiations on contracts, both labor, vendor, and lease contracts. We write almost all of the license agreements for the use of county facilities on a day or short-term basis. Policy drafting and reviews, labor law matters, all handled in-house. That includes EEOC matters, Michigan Department of Civil Rights matters, and as of very recently, my OSHA matters are all being handled in-house. Also serve as primary legal advisor to the county-wides, including the treasurer, sheriff, clerk, and the elections division of the clerk's office. Those are our biggest advisory clients. I call this landmine work. It is always better to give advice and prevent people from stepping on landmines than it is to clean up the debris after the explosion. We also write a myriad of legal opinions. This is the fourth year, I believe, that I've come before you and with a budget proposal that does not include any appreciable substantive increases. There is an increase, but that's largely attributable to union wage scale increases and matters that we have no real control over. I don't propose any new personnel increases. In fact, there's a personnel loss and no operational cost increases. At this point, my personnel loss is a paper loss. I'm keeping the position on my books, but it's not going to be funded. And that's how I'm making up my budget cut, my share of the pain that every other department's going to have to suffer. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Thank you, John. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John, we don't have to pay you a third of the settlement that Commissioner Miller received in the lawsuit against the regarding the drain. I'm joking. Obviously, if we had to pay you a third of what you recovered on behalf of this county, your budget would be astronomically larger. So I just want to thank you for the work you've done this past year. You've been greatly helpful in a great number of situations that I've needed some advice with regard to the legal advice with regard to issues involving the county. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I don't see any other speakers, so we have a motion in support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
All right, thank you, John. Ethics Board, I don't know if we have anybody. Do we have anybody here for this?
Yes, Dr. Amboyer should be on.
He is. Doctor, can you hear us? Are you on? If you're on by phone, hit *6 to unmute.
Commissioner Kleinfeld, I can see that Dr. Amboyer is on. I know he's using an iPad to connect with the meeting, so just a reminder, Dr. Amboyer, if you just hit the unmute button on your iPad with its little microphone.
Thank you, Mike. I'll tell you what, why don't we go to finance, and if we can get him, if he can get his microphone, we'll come back to him. I didn't do a receive and file on that yet, so let's go to finance right now, and we'll do, Steve, you're going to handle like everything under F, right? So let me get a motion to receive and file.
So moved, Carabelli.
Thank you. Support?
Support from Kraft.
All right, thank you. Director Smeagol. And then, Mike, if you can see that he's unmuted, let me know.
Sure. I just unmuted. Sorry about that. I'm hoping that Larry Lee and expecting Larry Lee to be on to talk about his purchasing budget, and hopefully Kristen is still on. I can cover them if they are not. Relative specifically to my office, of course, as you know, we have a staff of 22 currently. We are, almost all of us are out of the office and have been since the onset of the pandemic. We have a one or two people that maybe come in once a week to print checks or scan documents and things of that nature. But for the most part, we are all out of the office doing our work remotely. I will say I don't believe it's as efficient as it is in the office, but we are working to get our job done. We do have 2 or 3 staff that have committed a lot of time to assisting the planning department in processing all the business grant payments that have gone out with our CARES money. That's a significant endeavor in and of itself, setting up vendor records, making sure all the proper tax documentation is provided to us so we can set those vendor records up. Our budget for 2021 is very static. It's only up 0.6%. A lot of that increase is in internal services, which again is driven by indirect cost charges, which are offset by incoming revenue at the same time. Relative to our personnel budget, we have an employee here who has expressed interest in retiring and coming back part-time, and we do wish to pursue that. That person is integral to the support of the accounting and finance system, and we would like to pursue that and see how we can get along with a half-time person. So that's our budget in an overview. Pretty small department, pretty consistent. So willing to take any questions commissioners may have.
Okay, and I don't know if Kristen is still on, and who else did you say you wanted to have speak? I don't have it. I don't have that.
Purchasing, Larry Lee.
I'm here, by the way. I'm here.
Okay, all right. So we'll start with Kristen, and then we'll go to Larry. Go ahead.
Hello again, everybody. So you can see my budget. There is a slight increase, and I don't know if you guys remember my heartfelt speech to you back last year in December. We're a very small department, very little turnover, very few people leaving, which I'm thankful for, except in circumstances like this when I have to submit a slight increase in my budget, and it's basically those wage increases that were negotiated for my appraisers and the other employees. Basically everybody in the department but me is getting those wage increases. So there is a slight increase in our personnel budget. I will tell you we had a strange circumstance over 2020 because we too are all working from home for the most part, except for my appraisers, which are out in the field. We've had quite a request for our information. And so I know you see the line item for charges for services, that's $7,000 in revenue. We actually had quite a bit more this year in that. And so I don't know if that is a result from us working from home and not being, you know, I mean, everything's available online that we can, but we just seem to get a lot of requests for information. So the increase that you're seeing in my personnel was actually made up in requests for data. So hopefully, if we're still in this same situation, we might actually net out and not be an increased budget. We might actually give some more money back to the general fund than is showing on this document. And I'll answer any questions if anybody has any of me.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and have Larry speak, and then I have Commissioner Brown on deck.
Good afternoon, everyone. My budget's actually pretty good. We asked for no increases, and we actually met the executive's request of cutting 2.5%. Through two positions that we had open on the books, so they were actually eliminated through attrition. Beyond that, as I said, we asked for nothing, no increases, due to the fact that half of our staff is working remotely, and the other half of the staff that cannot, which is our central receiving, our print, and our mailroom. But other than that, I'll leave it up for questions.
All right, thank you. So I do have Commissioner Brown up.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This question is to Steve. To your finance team, Steve, with all the COVID work that's been done, additional work that's been done, how many people on your staff are dedicated to the tracking and auditing of that? Because it's a huge job, and the bulk of it falls on your department, I believe. And so can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, just a little bit. Commissioner, thank you. We have upwards of 4 to 5. So we have the three folks I spoke about that have been heavily involved in setting up vendor requests and assisting planning and getting out the checks to the businesses. I'm fairly heavily involved with the response team at EOC, and along with Steve Adair, monitoring and all the financial transactions and filing all the applicable reports with U.S. Treasury as it pertains to our spending of our CARES money, and coordinating with other departments such as Community Action, who are also receiving other federal monies to respond to COVID. So we spend a significant amount of time. Larry's on the call. He's involved along with his staff in purchasing the PPE and all the other items that are being purchased. So, Larry may be able to speak a little bit more to volume. Of course, we have the warehousing operation going on at the Vic Works building, trying to keep track of all the PPP inventory and monitoring all of that sort of thing. So it's quite an endeavor. It's different. I'll say that, obviously. I don't think I need to say that. It is different. But upwards of 3 or 4 of us all the time doing something almost every day, in addition to Larry's staff. So, Larry, if you want to chime in.
The only thing I can add, which the Board of Commissioners is already aware of, we just actually came to you last month to get permission of that $7 million additional spend that Vicki and Brandon and myself have been sending the purchase orders to as we make our spends to ratify those purchases. But yeah, we follow up with Steve on every purchase that we have that goes through the PPE and the CARE grant money. We are very, very diligent on everything that we're spending, just because I want to be very cautious, especially come next year when the auditors come back in. And I mean, there's no way to get around it. I mean, even beyond the Board of Commissioners reviewing what we're spending, the auditors I'm sure are going to be even more thorough. So we have been keeping very diligent records on how we're spending and where we're spending the money.
This is an additional responsibility of your department beyond what you normally do on a day-to-day basis. And it seems to me that such a large volume of work that how are you managing to do both jobs? Because it's just, I mean, the volume of dollars have come through the county in a rush, and the detail that's needed to make sure that they said that to clear the muster with the auditors is rather something. How is your department esprit de corps, Steve? How are you?
I would say we're working overtime.
Contracting any people?
No, we're not contracting anybody. We have some folks that may be incurring some overtime, just putting in time after hours, before hours, that kind of thing. To be quite frank, some things are being delayed and not happening necessarily as quick as normal, I would say, in terms of maybe some responses to emails and things of that nature. So it's a combination of some overtime, just after hours work. And as I say, some of the work, if you were to speak with Vicki Wolber, I think she would say the same thing. It's just sometimes things just have to take a back seat.
When the auditors come in and audit the COVID spend, will they be a different set of auditors than normal? Is it a different accounting system, or is that still part of our accounting system that is set up to?
Yeah, what will end up happening, Commissioner Brown, is we will probably have two sets of audits, actually. One audit will be from our own auditors, Plant Moran, as it relates to our normal annual single audit. This obviously is a huge program. It'll qualify as a major program. It'll get additional scrutiny from our auditors. In addition to that audit, which will happen in the summer of next year, we will have an audit, at least a desk review by the U.S. Department of Treasury. So we are what is referred to as a primary recipient of coronavirus relief funds. And primary recipients are organizations that have counties and cities that have populations of over $500,000. So in our state, it's our county, Wayne County, Oakland County, Kent County, and the city of Detroit. So the Office of Inspector General will review the reports that we file with them on a quarterly basis, and they will be reaching out to us, as we've been told, for additional documentation to review, to sort of, get an idea of what we're spending our money on. Whatever information they ask for will be based on the categorical expenses that we report to them. Some of their other thresholds will be, have we had a problem with other single audits? Do we have, major findings? Those sorts of things. If they find any issues in their desk review, which we basically are certain to have, then they could request further information or a field audit. It just depends on your responses to their desk audits. So that'll probably all happen early part of next year, though.
Will we have to contract with another auditing firm to do that?
I think what'll
long story short.
Yeah. So what'll happen is they'll ask for information. We'll submit documentation to OIG. They'll review it. If they have further questions, they'll be dealing directly with my office.
Are we responsible for the people that we pass the money through to for their
Yes.
actions?
Yes, we are. So that's called, we have sub-recipient agreements that you may recall that the commissioners approved a month or two ago, where we pass that money through to other local units, and we're responsible to ensure that we're monitoring them for proper spending. What's happening, though, is the reimbursements to the states or to the local units in the schools are going to be on a reimbursement basis. So we'll review the information here before we generate checks. So, we should find any questionable costs and disallow them up front. So we're not giving them just a block of money and then hoping they spend it correctly, put it that way.
Yes. Now that's another block of business or work that we didn't do prior to COVID that our staff has to do and be responsible for. And I would imagine it's pretty sizable. How are you managing that with our existing staff?
A lot of the work with the local units and the schools is being managed through emergency management, actually. So we've kind of spread that around.
Do they have the expertise and the finance expertise that your office does in reviewing those documents?
Yeah, I'm in contact with Brandon Lewis on a consistent basis relative to the requirements. They administer a lot of federal money themselves, so I have confidence that they are spending, reviewing the documentation and determining on properly if the expenses are allowable or not.
I've been bragging about our county that we didn't spend as much of that money right away as some places did because we were more thorough and detail-oriented in what we were doing and passing it out. I just want to make sure we don't, get burned by the actions of other players. And it's a lot of responsibility with all that money coming through to make sure that it's being spent properly. And so, but it sounds like you've got it under control.
Yeah, we're on top of it.
And you've got the adequate staff to manage it, apparently. Yeah, otherwise you'd ask for more, right?
Correct.
All right. Okay. Thank you for the information. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any other speakers. I did have Mike Keyes has left the meeting flash up, so we'll see what happens. There's a motion to receive and file. Please vote. Okay, we're good. And that actually was for F, not for the Ethics Board budget.
Correct, Commissioner Kleinfeld. That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go back to the Ethics Board. Do we have Dr. Amboyer here? Has anybody been able to talk to him about how to unmute?
Yes, Commissioner Kleinfeld. Unfortunately, Dr. Amboyer and myself are experiencing similar issues with our audio where we're present in the meeting, but for some reason it's not allowing us to unmute. And we've tried to work with him to be able to fix that, and he's been trying his hardest to be able to access the meeting. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem that that's working out right now.
All right. Well, given the situation, I think I'll just do a receive. Well, we don't even have a presentation to receive and file, do we? Do we have, before I seek a motion to receive and file, there's nothing to receive and file if we don't even have questions. Does anybody have any questions on
Madam
this?
Chairwoman, we have a report on the agenda package that, that speaks to it. We could receive and file that, couldn't we?
Yes, we could. We have a budget, but that's fine. There's a motion.
Supported by Romano.
Supported by Romano. Please vote, and we'll have him back at a later date, maybe to talk to us. Apologize for that.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. All right, so we are down to Human Resources and Labor Relations. Do we have Director McKinnon on?
Commissioner Kleinfeld, can I just make another comment just before Andy starts, please?
Sure.
So I'll make it brief. I know Commissioner Brown was asking about all the additional staff in my office and all the efforts toward COVID, and I didn't really give proper credit to all the other departments as well. There are many, many, many hours dedicated by staff in the executive's office and emergency management and health or human resources, the health department, the planning department. It's not just, you know, and they're probably putting more hours in than my office, to be quite honest. It's a monumental effort across the county, and we have an excellent team, and I need to make sure that those other departments are getting the proper credit. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. All right, do we have Director McKinnon? If he's on the phone,
I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Commissioner, are you able to hear me?
Yes, let me get a motion to receive and file before you start. Is there a motion?
Moved by Carabelli.
Moved by Carabelli.
Support Romano.
Moved by Carabelli, supported by Ha. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask if I can get that Mike Keys and Don Amboyer treatment, but I mean, Steve stole all my thunder, thanking everybody that we work with. You know, I've jotted a couple of notes here as we were going through this. We certainly have done some things in human resources and labor relations during this year. I'll touch on those a little bit. But the one thing, and I don't mean to be divisive, but the one thing that's coming from a formerly proud football program in the state of Michigan that keeps coming to my mind is the team, the team, the team. So when you talk about John Shapkin, what he outlined and what his office does and is extraordinary at when it comes to municipal law, that helps my office so incredibly much. When you talk about the things that we've been able to do with both our partners at TMR, who are our third-party benefits administrator, but especially John Anderson, who you saw earlier, and incredibly dressed up, might I add. The idea that we're able to lock our retirees into a Medicare Advantage program that maintains their Blue Cross Blue Shield Medicare Advantage for the next 3 years with no real increase to the county's cost and, in fact, a savings, that's an extraordinary accomplishment. The idea that finance, the executive's office, gave us the ability, with partnering with finance, to eliminate any sort of healthcare contribution during this year that we've had this pandemic is extraordinary to me. We are covering every dollar spent in COVID-19 expenses for all of our staff who's covered by our healthcare providers. So while many of our staff have deductibles and copays in some of their plans, there are no deductibles, there are no copays when it comes to fighting this pandemic of COVID-19. So I just keep thinking about the team. Then as Steve said, I'm looking down at Vicki Rad, her team, and helping us get out some of the communications that we need to get out on a regular basis and the COVID-19 communications that go out there. Brandon Lewis and his team over at Emergency Management, the executive suite with Vicki Wolver, Mark Delden, Al Lorenzo, John Paul Rea, they have been extraordinary to work with. And then the idea that we are working so hand in glove with this Board of Commissioners that we are able to seamlessly implement all of these things and get support and such kind words from folks today. It makes me proud to have the position that I have, and it makes me proud to work with everybody on this call, and it makes me proud to work with everybody who is here working for this county and moving this forward. So thank you to the board, but especially thank you to the colleagues of mine that put in this tough, this hard work every day. I also wanted to touch just a little bit on what Commissioner Brown mentioned. Finance doing 2 jobs instead of 1. Vicki Wolber maybe doing 3. Brandon Lewis, the same thing. This is work that is getting done. It is not sustainable long term. We will eventually have to ask for additional support in some way, shape, or form because it is an unbelievable lift that these folks have been able to accomplish. And I think Phil Kraft said it, Commissioner Kraft said it. like the amount of work that's been done is just extraordinary. But these people, you know, over time will need to have some assistance, and I appreciate that offer from Commissioner Brown. Finally, when it comes to our budget, we are leaving one funded office assistant senior position open at this time. We've reduced some of our other outside contract services amounts. We were able to come up with $89,000 worth of savings for next year that we had budgeted for this year, which was an ask from finance. And again, finance made our life incredibly easy when it came to the budget process. So thank you to our partners over there. With that, I'll take any questions that you have.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Kraft.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Andy. I was talking to Steve Adair in our workshop before this, and he was giving me some updates about the red circle, red lines, whatever we want to call those folks. Just a question for you. How many of those employees that are red circle do we have currently? Do you know? If not, you can get it to me later.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, Commissioner. I know it decreases every year because we get those increases to our contracts. As you heard, a couple of our directors mentioned the fact that their increases were due to increases in salaries, and I usually smile when I hear that because I like to hear that. I mean, it's fantastic that we're able to give some raises to our staff, and every time we get those increases in salaries, more people fall off of the red circle. So we're getting close to having all of our people swallowed up. I think we're I'm going to say it's less than 100 people countywide, but that's really shooting from the hip.
Okay, thank you. There's more I want to talk to you about offline, just because this has been such a tough year, and I feel for some of those employees that are red circled and may get nothing. So we may have a discussion about that, but I just wanted to know a ballpark number, and I appreciate you and the work that your team is doing. Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Also, I understand that you had a question for Steve that was in the previous section, but you didn't realize that we kind of flew past that. Do you want to ask him a question?
I was just wondering if I had missed on us touching the non-departmental operating appropriations and debt service. I didn't know if that was just me missing it or if we just skipped it.
I think, well, he was covering all those sections, and he may not have covered that, not thinking there was any questions. So that's why I wondered if you had any questions. Steve was covering everything in F is what he was doing.
Got it. Nope, I didn't have any questions. I was just asking about coverage. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to receive and file. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. All right, so we are down to Michigan Works. And let's see. I'm sorry, who's doing Michigan Works?
Commissioner Kleinfeld, can you hear me?
Oh, hi. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
How are you doing today, everyone? This is Chris Riley, Director for the Macomb St. Clair Employment and Training Agency. So for Macomb St. Clair, Michigan Works, certainly I'm not the only one on this meeting to say it's been an interesting year. The last several months especially, we've gone through some changes in terms of how we are delivering our services. Before I get to that, real quick on the budget, not much generally changes from year to year. You will see I have an additional supervisor on the roster than I did in prior years, and that has just been vital, especially in the last several months. I do have 3 vacancies right now on the books, and we're holding those, anticipating as we move through this pandemic with the unemployment rate and the needs of our local workforce and those job seekers as well as employers. A slight adjustment to some of the line items because we are working much more remote, not in the centers, and our methodology is changing. My entire staff had to be moved onto mobile phones, And so there's a slight adjustment for that monthly service, as well as for training, which at times can become more expensive, of course, because of technology costs. One thing is always, my department is 100% grant funded. It does not come out of the general fund. So generally, especially since all this has really happened for us in March, we have changed our means of service. Typically, our view of helping people or helping the public is that they would come to one of our career centers, and clearly that has not happened for a while now. So we have been transitioning in our technology and our service delivery as to how to be a more accessible service system through online means, whether that is from changing some of our systems to do electronic secure transfer of files, to changing our job fairs that have always been known to be in person to a virtual format using a system known as Brazen. And we have hosted or participated in a number of virtual job fairs in the last few months as that becomes more of the norm. We've used this time to clean up a lot of our caseloads for customers we've helped in the past. We've also been an extension to the Unemployment Insurance Agency, assisting those who may have issues with their claims. So that has been taking up some of our time. We are kind of moving away from that as we are looking at the needs of the local job seekers and employers. And as well as that, we also have some funding to assist those that have been displaced permanently or temporarily because of COVID. If they've been displaced from employment, we do have funds to assist them find new work or training. We've also received some CARES dollars through Macomb Community Action to provide training and housing for the Macomb Offender Success Program. And we've also assisted where we could with some of the grants that are out there for employers for their PPE. I think I'll pause there and entertain any questions you may have.
Okay, first let me get a motion to receive and file.
So move, Carabelli.
Thank you. Support?
Bourget, support.
Thank you. Commissioner Duge.
Thank you very much.
Of 40 employers in total. A number of those were skilled help, and it wasn't necessarily in that, the venue changes, right, with a job fair. Normally people are used to the come into a room approach and walk up to a table. We've had a little bit of a challenge in that sense, just as employers and job seekers get used to this virtual approach to a job fair. We had a very good turnout of job seekers, but we had hoped for more. We are working with a grant called the America's Promise Grant that is with the MTech campus of Macomb Community College to provide some skilled trades, classroom training and certification, which has provided excellent employment opportunities. We do see employers that are struggling, and we have one company, Domtar, that's in the Port Huron area. Now, they are more of a paper-based company, but what we have been trying to do and what we are doing with them right now is using this Brazen system and doing a virtual job fair specifically for them. They've got about 200 workers that are going to be affected, and we're setting up a job fair for those workers so they can hopefully experience a minimal or no period of unemployment. And it's things like that we're getting into now with kind of what I'm thinking of as this new method of service delivery for us to help those skilled trades employers and job seekers. kind of meet each other.
I've been very adamant about skills help in the Macomb County area for a long time. As a business owner, I had a lot of problems trying to find skilled help. And actually, Michigan Works helped me out with a couple of employees a few years ago. But that being said, I was just wondering if where is it turning? Is there more skilled help or more requirement for employees that have the skilled trades?
I think some of that depends on the specific position, and we are seeing where there is a lot of those that are asking for a credential of sort of a certificate or, on how to use a particular piece. So I don't know if it's necessarily any more than we have seen really in the last several years. So I don't know if that has changed so much. I think right now, if there's any struggle, it's just working through the pandemic and, trying to find those that are available to work and able to work and seeking work.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. So we are on planning and economic development. We have Vicki with us. Vicki, hi. So let me first get a motion to receive and file. Is there a motion?
So moved, Carabelli.
Thank you. Support? Can I get support?
Support from Kraft.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Vicki. And everybody who's not Vicki, please mute.
Thank you. Just real quick, over this COVID period, I did get married. So my last name has changed over to Rowinski. So I plan on seeing that come up on the emails. Not officially there yet with all the paperwork, but it's getting there. So this year has been an anomaly. Just listening to some of the other department leaders previous to me, we have definitely been through the ringer with COVID-19, not only a health crisis, but an economic development crisis. Planning and economic development is no different than the other departments that have seen that increase in workload, having to be very creative with some of our outside partners to help us out. We went into this actually four people short in 2020. When we look at our budgets and our salaries and the positions that we currently have. The budget in front of you does show that we're looking at partial hiring throughout the year to bring back those 4 positions, those vacancies that we were not able to fill. Ironically, we were interviewing for an office assistant the day before the March 13th shutdown. So that never went through. We could have used that extra body over these last couple of months, but we've been very strategic, working harder and smarter, needless to say. The budget in front of you does present some reductions in some of our operations, but primarily in the salaries. I will tell you 68% of our budget is allocated to salaries. It is the resource on the ground. Commissioner Kraft mentioned it best, boots on the ground. These are the individuals in my office that are picking up the phone, talking to these businesses that are in very, very sad states right now. We've been helping with the grants. Those have helped with a short cash infusion, but it's not going to be the thing that gets them over the hump, especially businesses, non-traditional businesses that we don't typically work with. We're accustomed to working with our large manufacturers, our healthcare industries, not necessarily the nails and the beauty salons as well as the restaurants, but we definitely have picked up that gap and made sure that we're available to them. You guys have seen some subcontracts come through where we brought in our chambers just to be that extra set of boots for us to get through this. 21 will be very interesting for us. As we're putting together our strategic plan, we're going to continue to provide the services of planning and economic development. We anticipate that we'll probably still be working really closely with our small businesses. Want to keep those businesses going. What we don't want is our downtowns and our small business mom and pop shops to go away. It does create a black eye for our community. And so we've got some creative programming Whether there is another infusion of CARES Act or not, we will be there to help support our businesses. So with that, I'll kind of leave it open for any questions.
Thank you. I don't see anyone. So you might be getting off easy because it's getting late. You're late in the line of speakers. So with that, please vote. It's going to take me 2 years to get onto the new name. I'm terrible with that. You know that.
It's been 3 months and I'm still not used to it.
That motion passes 12-0.
All right. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
All right. We have Department of Roads. Brian. Director Santa.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Oh, let me get the motion to receive and file.
Motion to receive and file, Drollet.
Or Carabelli.
Thank you. There's a motion in support. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. I do have our Roads Finance Director, Michelle Mccomb, and our Roads Planning Director, John Crum, online also. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to present our 2021 budget to you. As with everybody else in other departments, we have also had a very challenging time in 2020 for more than one reason, but we're still working through it as best as possible. We still had a very solid and robust program this past year, and that is going to continue into the 2021 season. We did initiate numerous road projects, bridge projects, traffic projects, as well as our consistent maintenance program. We do have some programs that we're excited about, some new programs. One is our core program, which is represents our community outreach and education program, to be continued and consistent with communications to all communities within the county. And then also we're onboarding a comprehensive asset management program to assist us in selecting current and future projects that are more objective and more analytically based as far as our process moving forward with selections. We did bring on HNTB as a consulting firm with that, as you're aware, from our past meetings and approvals. So that's exciting for us to move forward with that program to assist us in better selecting of projects for coverage of our repairs. Some of our upcoming projects that we do have the continued 23 Mile Road reconstruct and widening from North Avenue to the west. We do have our continued limestone program, which hits the northern communities as far as that goes. And we do have numerous preventive maintenance projects scheduled for next year also. But our biggest, prize is our mega project, which is Innovate Mound. It's a 9-mile segment to be reconstructed from I-696 to M59. And we're looking at starting that hopefully summer of next year, and hopefully wrapping that up the end of 2023 or into 2024 as a maximum. So with that, I'd open up the floor to any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Brian, real quick question about one of the upcoming projects in my district, the 23 Mile Road, Fairchild to Gratiot with the CN crossing in the way. Does CN take care of that crossing? And if they do, are you planning to coordinate a replacement for that, or is that just going to stay as is for the time being?
That communication and that coordination would be through CN, and that would be their crossing to repair or replace. Yeah, obviously, that's a section of roadway that is in disrepair and is of need. We have been communicating with the Chesterfield supervisor as far as that section is concerned, looking at funding possibilities and resources for the township to hopefully participate with that segment and looking forward to that project moving forward.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it too. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Brian, several years ago, the state passed a tax increase, a gas tax increase that was phased into the counties. We've received the total on what we were taxed on previously in this budget.
Are you talking our increase in MTF funds?
Yes.
I believe that ramps up fully in 2022. And that we have realized increases for that over the last few years, but that ramps up in its entirety in 2022 as far as maxing out our MTF funds.
Okay. How has COVID affected the workforce in your department? You guys have been working straight through regardless. How has the road commission been affected by COVID, and has it impacted your ability to get your jobs done, the maintenance especially?
As with everyone else, it's been a challenge. Obviously, we're considered essential service as far as safety of the motoring public with our roadways, bridges, and maintenance activities. We've stressed the appropriate protocols, CDC guidelines, just as other departments. We do have a lot of our staff working remotely. Our field personnel are obviously in the field overseeing the projects. So they're limited to office work and basically working in the field. Our staffing with the different departments within the roads department are working remote if possible. We do have some essential needs in the office, but trying to keep those to a minimum. But, the contractors have adapted. They've done what they needed to do in the field to keep our projects going. We hadn't really seen any huge delays within our current projects and don't foresee, hopefully, any moving forward into next year and beyond. So, knock on wood, we've done a pretty good job of getting these projects under fruition and completed.
Going back to the increase in MTF funding from the state, how much more additional work was that provided you in this budget compared to last year's budget? I'm sure, I guess, is there a dollar amount, or maybe you don't know, maybe your finance, maybe Michelle knows.
Michelle, are you on? Michelle?
My microphone is not working.
Actually,
yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Michelle. You can go through my phone.
So we have received the increase in MTF funds, but to put an actual amount on how much additional work, because we budget our projects, based on what the need is, and also trying to save for the Mound Road project. So I can tell you how much the MTF has increased, but to say what exactly additional work can be done as a result of that, it's a matter of the projects that are being budgeted for on a need-to-need basis. And that will become more prevalent when we put together our asset management program, which is in the works.
Okay. Yeah, Innovate Mound, we even before that, with just the patch Mound Road, we advanced some money, didn't we, from previous years, didn't we, to take care of the patching of the Mound Road?
That's correct. We had advanced constructed from future years monies to cover for more current projects on Mound Road that we just recently had done. So, and keep in mind that with this Innovate Mound project, that's a substantial hit funding wise, and we are looking at taking that cost and not having to bond out or not having to take any loans out for that. So we have programmed in our budget, to over the next 3 to 4 years, to take that brunt of the probably 40 to 45 million or more, and have enough money within our budget to not have to be able to, go out and bond or take any loans out. So I think Michelle's done an excellent job of looking at that and forecasting that with what we have in reserves as far as our fund balance and what we're going to be expending over the next 3 to 4 years, especially with that $200+ million Innovate Mound project.
That's a very responsible thing to do, and that's what the Road Commission has historically done, and I'm glad to see that it continues. That's a good job. Is there any new construction going to be happening anywhere in the county in the next year?
We have a lot of projects. Like I said, that we continue.
Well, I mean, from gravel to pavement. I'm on the rural end. We got, a lot of more dirt roads and gravel roads out here. Is there any roads going from gravel to pavement?
Yes, we have a handful up in the northern community. I know we're looking at 30 Mile Road as far as from Mound to the east, connecting some of those to some of the subdivisions and communities out there.
Don, would you like it to be sent an email on that rather than going through every one of those?
Yes, sir. I'm just generally speaking, but just wanted to make sure that we're taking care of the maintenance, and do we have any left over to to expand? And it seems like we do in a moderate way. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Brian. It's piggybacks on Commissioner Brown's initial question with regard to the increase in MTF funding that's been being phased in. Have you experienced, or the department experienced, any sort of mismatch, I guess, between the funding coming into the county from the MTF and the local units of government being able to meet their, contribution to road projects? In other words, I believe the MTF funds that have been increased and that are being phased in are coming to the county, but not to any local, not to townships, for example. And being that townships pay a % of road projects, has that created a situation where the county has starting to see an increase in the amount of money that's available for roads, but the townships don't have any new additional money to provide their match? What is the current balance between the needs and the ability of local townships to fund road projects and the county's ability to provide that? In other words, the townships just not have enough money to do the match for the increased amount of revenue that is coming in through the MTF to the county.
That's a great question, Commissioner. There's traditionally and historically been always a challenge with the townships to find a way to come up with monies for their community as far as match money and contribution money when it comes to projects within their district. The additional MTF funds that we have obviously are realized in what we do and move forward with. And I know that we've produced, I think on an annual basis, that the Act 51 dollars per township that we receive, we spend more than that in just regular maintenance activities throughout the year within those particular communities and townships. So I guess if you want to look at something as far as funding, we're overspending when it comes to Act 51 dollars per community per township than we're actually receiving. So even though there's an increase, there's always a challenge to find additional resources on our end as well as the township's end. We do help and assist the townships with acquiring, state infrastructure bank loans, SIB loans at low interest rates, and that does run through our office, and it's usually a 10-year time frame. But we try and look for ways that the communities can outreach, within their own community, sometimes developers, sometimes elsewhere, loans and such, to be a participating cost provider within our projects that we move forward within their community. So it's always been.
Are you saying, in short, that the money increasing from the new money coming in from the MTF is being spent on maintenance and basic maintenance and repair in the townships, not necessarily on widening projects or new road projects? Is that the essence of what you're saying?
That's correct. The majority of our townships that we have control as far as the road system, the majority of them we overspend as far as just the regular maintenance is concerned of the Act 51 dollars that we receive through the formula for the township. Okay. So the money that they have to set aside, and this is up to the communities to budget or look for additional resources, whether it's through a millage or otherwise, loans, bonding. They do have to look for other resources to, supply that cost share monies to participate with road projects moving forward. We do have a maintenance program that we do go out and do general maintenance. We do single lift overlays that are usually 100% Department of Roads within different communities that sometimes struggle with, getting the more robust preventive maintenance projects to move forward. But we do try and assist every community, to look for money, find resources. We want to partner and participate with all communities. Obviously, there's a need, and we want to be there to try and help support that.
Okay. That does answer my question. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivera.
Thank you, Commissioner Duge.
Brian, I was struck by the comment about gravel to pavement. And speaking of that, I'm wondering about 10 Mile Road between DeQuinder and Ryan. Is that slated to be done this year, or do you think it's going to drag on to next year?
You can take that all the way to 94.
That project, we were hoping to try and get it in this year. I know we were looking at, I believe, infrastructure of water main potentially need to be replaced through that section, but that will most likely be in the spring of next year. But we are planning that project and do have that underway to be constructed or a project along that stretch there of a mill and fill.
Well, I appreciate anything and everything that you can do. Keep up the good work and keep me informed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. And just from me, if Hayes doesn't get done next year and we don't get some improvement on 10 Mile and I'm getting hounded on Harper, I'm moving into your house because I won't be allowed to live in mine anymore. So that's just a heads up for you.
Yeah, as far as Hayes Road, I know we had it on this year's plan, although we had to relook at that and redesign that, basically. It needed more work than we were anticipating, so it is in our program. We do have a more robust project for that, some reconstruct as well as some overlay. So,
I did see your original estimate, and I just started laughing when I saw that because I drive that. So, all right, with that, we have a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Okay, so now, well, you're not taking off just yet. We have the Macomb Orchard Trail Commission. That's on you too. So can I get a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you. So, and I think Commissioner Brown's going to have some questions on this. So go ahead.
I know we assist with the Macomb Orchard Trail as far as some of the projects and maintenance. I know we assist with the Macomb Orchard Trail as far as some of the projects and maintenance activities as far as oversight. I guess in combination of Steve Smeagol from Finance, I guess we can field questions.
All right. I don't see him down as a speaker. I know he was curious about it.
Madam Chairwoman.